On Christmas Eve, three friends, John, Peter, and Victor, decided to spend the night at an old, secluded cabin in the woods. Peter's late uncle had left him the cabin, and despite the locals' warnings about its dark history, the friends were excited for a quiet holiday retreat. They arrived as snow began to fall, the cabin standing alone in the cold, surrounded by towering trees. The inside was cold and musty, but cozy enough with a fire crackling in the hearth. The trio exchanged gifts and spent hours chatting, enjoying their time together. But as night deepened, the wind began to howl louder, shaking the trees outside, making the cabin creak and groan. Around midnight, a faint thud echoed from above, followed by the sound of footsteps, slow and deliberate. At first, the friends laughed it off, thinking it was just the house settling. But the footsteps grew louder, more distinct. "Did you hear that?" John whispered, his voice tense. Victor, always the daring one, stood up. "I'll check it out," he said confidently, though his eyes betrayed him. Peter grabbed his arm. "Don't, Victor. It's probably nothing." But Victor shook him off and headed for the stairs. "I'll be fine," he assured them. John and Peter exchanged nervous glances, but reluctantly followed him. At the top of the stairs, they found the attic door slightly ajar. Victor stood frozen in front of it, his face pale. "There's something in there," he whispered. "Something's not right." They cautiously entered the attic, and their eyes immediately fell on the walls, which were covered in yellowed newspaper clippings. The stories told of a horrific Christmas Eve massacre that had taken place in the cabin years ago, an entire family murdered. Suddenly, the door slammed shut, and the room grew ice-cold. Shadows in the corners of the room began to move, twisting into grotesque shapes. A voice whispered from the darkness, "You shouldn't have come." The air grew thick with cold, and the friends tried to escape, but the door wouldn't budge. The shadows closed in, reaching for them with icy hands. Their breaths came in visible clouds as the whispers grew louder, more frantic. Then, just as suddenly as it had started, everything went silent. The door creaked open, and the three friends fled downstairs. But when they reached the ground floor, the fire was out, and the cabin was eerily still. The next morning, the cabin was quiet, the snow outside undisturbed. But John, Peter, and Victor were gone, no footprints, no belongings, nothing. The locals say that every Christmas Eve, the spirits of the murdered family return to claim new victims. And the cabin waits, silent and cold, for the next souls to arrive.